Hello, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Kira. I'm a 25-year-old who lives in Ontario. My channel is full of all things, excuse you, Nolly. My channel is full of all things lifestyle, Disney, travel, a bunch of different things. Honestly, we're just a little bit of everything around here. But today I thought it'd be fun to go through all of the books that turned me into a reader. If you had asked me 2 years ago if I had a TBR, I would have said absolutely not, I don't read. So these are all the books that I've read so far, and then I'm also going to go through the couple books I have on my TBR, but this is what I'm calling books that turned me into a reader because they quite literally did. So, backstory on how I got into reading last year, because last year was the first year I actually started reading again. I read in elementary school, but it was more because at that point you had to. You didn't really have a choice. So, these are the books that I read last year and that have kept me into reading. I was in a little bit of a reading slump in the last 2 months, but I am ramped back up. So let's go through the books that kind of turned me into a reader, all of my reads that I did last year as someone that doesn't actively read all the time. I'm not someone that's constantly reading. I like to read while I tan. I will read before bed sometimes. I'm not someone that's, going through 2 books a week, 3 books a week. I'm not that kind of reader. So if you're kind of on my page where you're just you know what, I kind of want to get into reading, I want to find some good books to maybe get me into that, the vibe, then maybe this video is for you. But let's start going through. But anyways, where was I? Oh my gosh, the story of why I started reading. The story on how I started reading was quite funny actually, because I essentially saw a TikTok, and it was, I don't know who exactly it was, I don't remember, it was so long ago, but it was a book, and it was quotes from a book, and it was something that just really resonated with me at that time. So this TikTok showed a quote that it hit me. It really resonated with me at that time, and I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds good. And then I looked into the book a little bit more, and I was like, okay, maybe I want to try this book out. And that book was Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. And so I did some more research on it because I was like, okay, this book sounds like it's good. It had quotes that really hit me and my soul on where my life was at that time and stuff like that. But I essentially was just okay, I really want to read this book. This book sounds really good, so I wanted to do that. But the more I looked into it, this is the 3rd book in the standalone trilogy. So essentially it was, you can read this book by itself, but you could get more into the book, into the universe, into the depth of the characters, who they are, by reading the other 2 books first. So with that being said, the very first book that I read that turned me into a reader, I have these all organized now. So the very first trilogy that I read was the Part of Your World trilogy. So all 3 of these books are by Abby Jimenez, and I love them. I think Abby Jimenez is hands down my favorite author right now. Granted, though, I haven't really read too many books, so I can't really say that, but definitely I'm if Abby Jimenez has a book, I've probably read it. I think there's one book that I'm missing from this trilogy, but it's that's my next read, honestly. So very first book I read was Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. So this one was about Alexis and Daniel, and I loved this book. When I say I read through this book in probably less than a week, for someone that doesn't read, I flew through this book, and I absolutely loved it. I love Abby Jimenez's writing. I love that it's don't get me wrong, now I like books with a little bit of spice to them, but these ones I find are very low spice. They do have some, but it's very kind of closed door. There's not very too much that goes into it. But I do, I just find that her stories are very compelling. They're very, her stories, some people really don't like Abby Jimenez, which I don't get. I'm a very, fairy tale lover girl kind of person, so I love her books because they're true, just romances, and I love a good romance book. And I find that some of her books, yes, they can be a little bit predictable, but I kind of like that. I like the books where I'm oh my gosh, I bet this is gonna happen. But some of the books that I've read have really, really good plot twists. So anyways, the very first book I read that got me into reading was Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. And I loved this book so much, so I immediately was okay, well, I'm gonna go out and get Yours Truly. And Yours Truly follows Brianna and Jacob. And so you know, it's nice because it kind of flows into it. You know, the characters from this book, the characters from this book end up in this book. And then same goes for this book into Just for the Summer. So it's really nice reading it in order. I know a lot of people said you don't have to, but if you haven't read this trilogy and you wanted to read it, I would definitely suggest reading it in order, because I did really enjoy kind of like how everything flowed nicely into each book. But these ones are kind of funny because, you know, this one's about a doctor and a carpenter. This one's about two doctors. I really like this one being someone who works in healthcare. I thought this book was hilarious. I resonated a lot with it being, you know, in healthcare, and I just thought this was a really good book as well. But I loved these ones. And then, of course, I finished it off with Just for the Summer, and this one was about Emma and Justin, and really loved this one too. So this was definitely a very good one. The kind of 4 dates, a kiss, and a breakup. That's all it takes for them to find their soulmate. This one was a really good book. I really did enjoy this one, and this one was very, like, popping off last year. This one was a very big book in 2024. Like, this was the book that everyone was reading this summer, so I flew through this trilogy very quickly, and I absolutely loved it. So if you're looking to get into reading, I love Abby Jimenez, especially if you love a good romance book. And I'm not gonna lie, a lot of the books that I have read have been romance books, so do with that what you will, but when we get to my TBR, it's a whole different story. The next trilogy that I read, because I was watching the show, was The Summer I Turned Pretty. So obviously I read them in order. So I read The Summer I Turned Pretty, It's Not Summer Without You, and then We'll Always Have Summer. And I kind of did this because I was watching the show, and then I was like, you know what, I haven't read the books, so I wanted to read them. Also, they're just super cute. Like, I just think these covers are adorable. Very summery, you know, like Summer and Cousins. I loved the vibes of these books, and I also was excited to read the last book because watching the show, I had no clue what was going to happen in this book. So I was able to kind of read that. So now I'm prepped for season 3 when it comes out on, I think it's July 16th, and I'm very excited. But honestly, these are books that I'll probably keep rereading because I did really like these ones. Same with these ones, honestly. These could potentially be a reread for me this summer because I do like reading a lot when I'm tanning. But yeah, by Jenny Han. Really loved these ones. I might try and pick up another trilogy. If you can hear Nala, it's because she's like sleeping like literally right here. But I might pick up another trilogy by her because these are really good and I really enjoyed reading these. So after reading that, I believe that's when I picked up Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. And this was the book I read the fastest. I think I read this in like 2 days, and for someone that doesn't read, that was wild. Like, even my parents were kind of like, Kira, like, who are you? Like, what are you doing? Why are you reading? Why do you like going to the bookstore all of a sudden? That's not just for Jellycats. So I read this one super, super fast, and this one was about Isabel and, or no, it's not Isabel. Oh my gosh. Anastasia and Nate. So this was such a good book. And so as soon as I finished this book, like, this was, you know, your classic, like, hockey figure skater romance, which I'm not gonna lie, I didn't think I'd be super into it, and I flew through this book. I also love that this one had the sprayed edges, and it's just a really pretty version of it. Like, the hardcover of it was just so pretty. And that was the reason I got this book, because I was like, wow, it's really pretty. Like, I wasn't really into, like, the whole, you know, hockey romance, and hockey romance has my heart now. So really loved this book. Finished this one super quick as well. And then as soon as I finished that one, I realized that was also part of like a standalone trilogy. So I picked up Wildfire. And guys, I loved this book. Russ and Aurora. Like, I grew up going to summer camps and stuff like that. So I think this book just kind of like hit that, like, you know, like childhood summer camp vibe. Obviously it was, you know, made more for like young adults, so it was very just like, I just loved it. And again, so the characters in Icebreaker kind of came into the character in Wildfire, and then the same goes for this book into Daydream. And I'm not gonna lie, I DNF'd Daydream. I didn't love it. Let me go grab it actually. I did not finish Daydream. I just didn't like it as much as I liked Icebreaker and Wildfire. I feel like these two books had really compelling stories, you know, like the spice in it was nice. It kept everything kind of moving very quickly. And I really did. Like, I found Icebreaker I flew through. I also flew through Wildfire pretty quickly as well. Like, I don't think it took longer than a week to read this one. And going into it, I was so excited to read Daydream because I loved the character Henry. He was in both of the other 2 books. And this book just didn't do it for me. So I DNF'd Daydream. I did not end up finishing it. But maybe I'll give it another go at some point down the road. But I just didn't love it. It wasn't doing it for me. So anyways, so moving on, the next couple books I read was I ended up reading the Friend Zone series. So this one follows Kristen and Josh. This is another really good book. Again, I love Abby Jimenez's writing. I think it's very compelling, easy to follow. Like, I can fly through her books very quickly, and I really did like this one. And then as soon as I finished this book, I went into the Happily Ever After playlist, and I had just finished this one a couple weeks ago. This one is about, oh my gosh. This one follows Sloane and Jason. So again, with Abby Jimenez's books, Sloane was the best friend in this book, and now this book is kind of her story. And I'm not gonna lie, guys, don't read this book and then read the back of this book. Just grab it and read it. Because if you read the back of this book, it'll spoil everything for you. So I wish I had done that, because I went into, like, finishing this book. Like, don't get them both at the same time, because it spoils the end of this book for you. So anyways, read these 2 books, and now, so this brings me to my current read. So I'm currently reading Abby Jimenez's new book, Say You'll Remember Me. I'm almost done this book, and I'm loving it so far. This one is about Xavier and Samantha, and I have been really enjoying this one. I think it's so cute. I think that all of, like, the moments in this book, like the core memories and stuff that they make in this book, are really good. And this book, again, has just been compelling. Like, I really like it. I know some people are saying, like, they really don't like this book and it's kind of cringy, but I don't think it is. And maybe that's just because I'm such, like, a princess fairy tale, like, lover romance girl, that I love that kind of book. Like, I love books where I'm kicking my feet and just giggling. Like, this book has actually made me laugh out loud, and I am loving it. So I'm probably literally going to finish this today, and I am very excited to finish this book. Like, I'm not excited to finish it, but I'm excited to, like, get to the end of it. So that is the end of my current reads, and then now we'll go on to the books that I have on my TBR that I'm gonna read at some point. So first one I have is Better Than the Movies. This is like a TBR because I DNF'd it. So I think I got like maybe a 1/6 of the way into this book, and I just couldn't get into it, but I hear like so many good things, so I think I might just need to push through this book. So I'm leaving this one for the summertime when I'm just like in the pool and just need something to just try and read. I also really love dual POV books. So that's the one thing about basically all of these books here, is they're all dual POV, I think, except for the Summer I Turned Pretty series. That one I think is not fully dual POV. I could be wrong though, actually. No, it's not. But all of Abby Jimenez's books are dual POV, and then these ones by Hannah Grace were also dual POV, and I just love that. I love being able to get into like the brain of both characters and being able to see the story from both of their point of views. I find that I'm very much a person that enjoys that kind of book. So maybe that's why I DNF'd like this book, because it's not a dual POV. I don't think, like, it just kind of wasn't doing it for me. So I want to try and read this one again, but Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter is one on my like physical TBR that I have at home. Another one I have is Fall With Me by Becca Mack. This one's a dual POV book, but I think I tried starting this one and I couldn't get into it again. This is one I'm keeping because I want to try and get into it at some point, and this is one that I found on TikTok. I had quotes in it that just sounded really good and that I wanted to try and read. So that one, Love in Other Words, I haven't actually even like gone to start yet, but I hear really good things about this book. It's one of my sister's favorite books that she told me to read, and I feel like everybody and their mothers have read Love in Other Words and said it was really good. So wanted to read this one. And then this is another hockey romance book that I got, and I tried this book. I think I got like a quarter of the way through it and just couldn't really get too into it. But this is a dual POV book, which I like. So I want to try and give this one another go at some point, but I think it was just the timing. Like, I just wasn't vibing with it. This is what I brought with me to Asia. And one, I just never had the time to read, and then it just never really stuck with me. So I want to try and read that one again at some point. And then these are my two newest purchases. So I purchased the Let Them Theory. I used to read self-help books a lot when I was younger. Like, I've read Atomic Habits and 101 Essays to Change Your Life and stuff like that. But I really liked the idea of the Let Them Theory, so I wanted to read this one at some point just because, you know, I hear Mel Robbins on like TikTok all the time and stuff, so I wanted to read her book and kind of see what it is without listening to her voice constantly on TikTok. So I have that book, and then, guys, I got my first fantasy book. So I was trying to decide. I was like, do I read ACOTAR, do I read Fourth Wing, or do I read ACOTAR, Fourth Wing, or Throne of Glass? Because those are like the three big, I feel like, fantasy series that everyone reads, and my friends are all telling me, Kira, you need to start reading a fantasy book. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll get into like the Dragon Lover Boys. And so I picked up Fourth Wing, and so I'm excited to give this one a try and kind of see what this book kind of entails. But I'm not a fantasy reader, so I'm kind of excited to go through this book and see if I read it, if I like it, if I DNF it. I only bought the first book of it because I didn't want to buy the whole trilogy and not finish it. So this is probably going to be my next read because I am kind of excited to see if I like it or not. So the last thing I thought I'd do is go through kind of my like wish list, my book wish list as someone who's relatively new to reading. Nala keeps snoring. I'm so sorry if you can hear her. But these are kind of the books that are on my list. These are the books that are on my list that I want to grab at some point. So the ACOTAR series I want to try and read as well. I know people say really good things about it, so I wanted to give that one a go as well. I would like to read Megan Quinn's A Long Time Coming and A Not So Meet Cute. I feel like those books just looked really cute. Wanted to try them. Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carland or something like that. Wanted to read that one. I want to try Emily Henry. I've tried to like sit in the bookstore and like try and read like a little bit of her books to see if I can get into them. And I've read like the covers of her books, and I just don't love, like, I don't know what it is. I don't know, maybe it's the names of characters that kind of get me, but I want to try and read her books at some point. I really do, because I know a lot of people really do love Emily Henry. I've tried a couple times and I just can't bring myself to buy them. I feel like they might just be very overhyped. So, anyways, whatever. The next series I wanted to try and read was the Hunger Games series, especially with Sunrise on the Reaping just coming out. I wanted to go back and read all of the Hunger Games series. So, like, you know, Hunger Games, Catching Fire, Mockingjay, A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and then Sunrise on the Reaping. Those are the next kind of few that I want to read as well. And then Iron Flame and Onyx Storm, if I like the Fourth Wing book. I want to finish that series. The last Abby Jimenez book that I need to read is Life's Too Short, so that's another one that's on my TBR as well. Picking Daisies on Sundays by Leona Cincinnati. That's another one on my list that I'd like to read. And then I do want to try reading Anna Huang's, like, The Striker. That one looks really good, and I always pick it up when I go to the bookstore. I just haven't bought myself to buy it yet, but it sounds really good and it looks really good, so I am excited to try that. The Throne of Glass set, I would like to try and read. Oh my gosh, she's so loud, I'm so sorry. And then the last set is the Twisted series, so Twisted Love, Hate, Games, and Lies. That's the last kind of series that's on my list. But anyways, nice quick little video for your Sunday. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any book recommendations, leave them down below, especially if they're very similar to like Abby Jimenez, Hannah Grace. Love her. Love both of them. So those are books that I'm very into right now. So if you have any suggestions that are kind of like similar vibes to them, definitely leave them down below. And if you are someone who's trying to get into reading and you've never really been a reader and you really like romance books, oh my god. If you're someone who's trying to get into reading, hopefully this video helps you a little bit in picking out some books to read, as someone who literally has never read a page in her life and absolutely despised reading and now has a little bit of a book collection. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you'd like to join our little crazy corner of the internet full of basically everything, but lots of Disney, because we do have some Disney trips coming up. So, anyways, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!